You're listening to Wild Things and Wild Places, a Muley Fanatic Foundation podcast that aims to discuss issues and efforts related to the Muley Fanatic Foundation mission, the conservation of mule deer, furthering the sport of hunting, and sound wildlife management.
Everybody knows I'm a Muley fanatic.
It's time for Wild Things and Wild Places. And here's your guide, Joshua Corsi.
And welcome to Wild Things and Wild Places. Joining me today is Dave Kavanah, who hails from Winchester, Virginia, leader and chapter chair of the Blue Ridge chapter of the Muley Fanatic Foundation. Dave, welcome.
Oh, thank you very much, Josh. Pleasure this afternoon.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to have you carve some time out so we can visit. Of course, big news this week that came out from the Wildlife Crossing Pilot Program, federal government effort that allocated $24.3 million to the application that Wyoming had submitted on the Kimmer 189 to I-80 Wildlife Crossing Project. And what's relevant to that with the Virginia chapter is that when this priority was deemed priority numero uno a couple of years ago by the Wyoming Game and Fish Commission, the Wyoming Game and Fish Department, the state of Wyoming for wildlife crossings efforts, the Blue Ridge chapter was the first chapter, but not only the first chapter, but also the first deposit into that savings account to start generating revenue for that enormous project. And that's extraordinary. I mean, you have a chapter in Virginia contributing to a project that's been deemed a priority in the state of Wyoming. I'm sure when you heard earlier this week, you were elated, like the rest of us, to know that this project is going to be able to reach its financial obligations that sometimes take decades. I mean, there's been other wildlife crossing projects that have been in the working stages for more than a decade, and here we are now 3 years later with a pilot program and the federal government contributing funds to what is going to be an enormous game-changing project. I'm sure that was something that resonated well with you and your members.
Oh, absolutely, Josh. I tell you, we were just giddy with that news, quite honestly. At no point in this juncture to expect this thing to be funded that quickly. But really, as we look at it, the main positive impact of this crossing is just immeasurable and extremely impactful going to the future for the critters in this area. We're just super excited for this.
Yeah, I'm excited that you were a part of this effort as a chapter of the Muley Fanatic Foundation. Other chapters have also contributed funds to this effort. Headquarters has partnered with the Wildlife Fund, has generated revenue through the sale of commissioner license specific to this project. All in all, there's been a significant Muley Fanatic footprint involved in this effort. But to know that you led the charge as a chapter out of state to make that initial deposit into this account, that's something that I think I'll never forget. That's amazing, and I know other people have said that to us as well, and you should be very proud. But I am curious how the process of your chapter and your project allocation committee, if you can let folks know how that conversation took place when you presented this to the allocation committee back in Virginia. Here's a wildlife crossing in Wyoming. It may or may not happen anytime soon, but let's put some of our funds towards this.
It's as we rewind the clock a little bit, with my group, having spent time in Wyoming and specifically having spent time on that road from Route 80 all the way up to Kimmer, I share with my guys the firsthand experience that I had several years back and the amount of carnage that I saw on the road between those 2 points, geographical, was just gut-wrenching. And our committee members, they're committee members because they understand what the needs of mule deer. And when hearing that, they said, yeah, this is this place that we need to put our efforts and our energies to dedicate funds for this project. Because on the East Coast, we see a lot of carnage here too. Granted, it's whitetail, not mule, but we all feel a little bit when we see a critter laying on the side of the road. And specifically when it comes to open mule deer out west, our guys are pretty passionate about those critters. So we felt this is the right place to with our efforts and funding.
I know there are many folks that would tell you thank you for your support and your efforts from back east. It is a little unorthodox to have an effort that is being led in an area where mule deer do not even exist for the conservation of mule deer. But I think that speaks volumes of the support base and the efforts that you have had, the impact that you as a chapter has had. But you specifically, you reached out to us well before the establishment of your chapter, before you had retired, to inquire about the process, the funding model, how it worked, and had committed that you wanted to get this effort started. You've made a tremendous amount of progress. You're on the verge of your 5th annual event next April 13th, 2024. The strides and the impact that your chapter has had in mule deer conservation out west, it's nothing short of profound. And I continue to tell others how flattering that is, that there is this interest and effort to want to do mule deer conservation when you don't live here. But I think it speaks volumes for the folks that attend your event every year. Some of them come out west and enjoy their opportunities in the fall to be a consumptive chaser of the resource, but others may or may not ever even get out here, but continue to support it. And that's got to be very humbling for you.
Thank you. It really is. I guess when Ron Kender and I sat in, 2019 and whiteboarding the concept of starting mule deer chapter 2,500 miles from the closest mule deer, but both of us fortunately spent enough time out west hunting mule deer and chasing them and an appreciation for this iconic animal. And let's give it a whirl. And we did. The first year was a nailer, as any first round fundraiser, a new chapter starting up. But with each year, we've really been able to draw in other Western hunters. When I say Western hunters and conservationists all in the same breath, because the two tied hand in hand. But every year we continue to garner additional support from members that really who attend from as far away as Maine all the way down to North Carolina. So, the word's been slowly getting out, but we're proud of our efforts, albeit I want to be humble. We're still a very small chapter to compare to others, but I think it's important that anybody at any level that has any inkling and they want to step up. This is our small way of trying to give back.
I know you're very humbled in just what you've said, but your effort has been significant. Your event is a wonderful organized event, 250 folks gathering on an annual basis in Virginia to support mule deer conservation efforts out west. That's nothing to be less than anything but great in my mind. That's incredible, just the fact that you have that influence of folks that are and following of folks that are willing to gather in that effort and in that charge. It is worth noting, Dave, that when you talk about funding and the funding model that the Muley Fanatic Foundation has, with your chapter retaining 70% of those dollars of your annual event to be allocated by an all-volunteer project committee, has there ever been any sort of just discussion of we're raising money for something we may not actually get to see the benefit of because it's going back west where mule deer roam?
I think it's a bigger picture, and certainly a lot of our audience, a lot of our members probably aren't blessed with the opportunity to go west, but with the relationships that Ron and I have had with a good many of our committee members and our attendees and fellow members, it's how you present the story. And to your point exactly, a lot of our members, when we sit down with businessmen that are hunters or even non-hunters, and we start talking about how our foundation was set up and how the monies are allocated with the 70-30 business model, that grabs a lot of attention. A lot of our attendees, as I said earlier, certainly hunters and conservationists, have other conservation fundraisers throughout their career lives, but none of those other organizations can do what we do. And we can look them in the eye and say, listen, we're going to sit down and write checks at the end of this banquet season, and 70% of our funds our net funds go specific to these projects, and we will give you copies and we'll show them where their fund and support has gone. And that, quite honestly, that has been really significant in our success in growing this chapter.
You've had a tremendous impact. Your contributions collectively over 4 previous events, you're 6 figures plus. You're in that almost $150,000 range of allocations. That's nothing to be ashamed of by any stretch of the imagination. Where do you see the chapter moving forward, Dave? Do you have a vision or a goal of where you might be 2 to 3 years from now? I know you never settle for just the stagnant, today is the day, complacent of accepting of we've hit all we can hit. What's the strive that keeps your goat going?
Oh, gosh, Josh, honestly, I got to tell you, I have to look back to my career, my professional career, and look back on some of those successes. And it was really all about, just surround yourself with good people, good things happen. Surround yourself with great people, great things happen. So we're always continually looking for the next great committee member to bring in. And honestly, as we continue to probe, some of these people are finding us, which is really nice. But at the end of the day, if you're not willing to stretch and grow, and at some point, make sure that this chapter is sustainable moving forward, and it takes new blood. You got to have a strong bench. And our guys understand that. And I always task guys and ladies with, there's somebody else out there we need to be wrapping our arms around. Let's get on it.
Yeah, I laugh, David, when I think about this, because I remember when you said it, but you're the only chapter chair who I've had this conversation with where you told me one time that you were about to fire some volunteers. And I looked at you like, this is something that you're going to have to really be careful with, Dave. You're dealing with volunteers, and it does take a volunteer effort to continue to move this forward.
Yeah.
But no, you've actually you've had that conversation where you've had to let volunteers go.
We always try and front load on the front end. It's important to really lay the expectation out there. And at the end of the day, I just have always looked for passion and commitment. And when you find those people, makes a difference. And I'm proud to say we've got another new individual coming on board this year who's already joined our first meeting, and excited about not only what he can bring, but also the team as a whole can bring. It's not one person. It's the culmination of everybody pulling that wagon, as it would be in any type of work or workload business or even volunteer work. So that's the approach we take.
Yeah, and that is the approach, and that's what makes it work. You've done a good job. You've recognized that. You've been able to delegate and distribute the responsibilities and hold folks accountable to meet them, and that's why you've had the success that you've had as a chapter in Virginia for Mule Deer out west. It's phenomenal. What advice would you give, or what recommendations would you give to somebody that was maybe considering starting a chapter of the Muley Fanatic Foundation? What have you learned that you would pass along that might be words of wisdom or a good solid advice for them to take in helping them be successful right out of the gate?
It really starts in your heart and your mind. It's as I said, you got to have the full passion and commitment for the critter and for the organization and for the work that's being done. And at the end of the day, it's not for the faint-hearted. Don't get me wrong. So we, like anybody else coming out of shoot, have had to bumped our knees a little bit, banged our heads, but there's enough people within the organization that are more than willing to help with somebody start up a new chapter, myself being one of them. Certainly the support we get from Green River, from the foundation headquarters, is tremendous. Take a deep breath, put down your goals, write them down, be clear about them, and surround yourself with like-minded people that want to help carry the ball.
Yeah, one thing that has been instrumental for you is being able to share the responsibility and that load, having a co-chair. I know you've brought some other key people on to increase roles of responsibility in recent years, but Ron Kendra has been there from the beginning with you. Did you hear Ron won a gun on the gun calendar this week?
I did. He didn't waste any time in rubbing it in. So.
Yeah, I'm sure he didn't.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing where I was going with that, Dave, is not only you and him carrying this load together, and he certainly brings some benefits to the team and the leadership that the chapter has and his relationships with the community there and his long-standing time as a member of that community, retired Virginia State Patrolman, but the friendship and the brotherhood or the togetherness that is formed by doing this effort together, it's invaluable in my mind.
Yeah, it really is. It's an internal support mechanism for each other and for the other committee members that we have on board. It's a team effort, and it's never one person. The success lies in the team, not in the eye. And Ron and I both feel it's very important that being a one-off this far away, not having mule deer in state, that we have to work a little bit harder to make sure that our efforts over the past going on 5 years now are sustainable. And the way you do that is again, to make sure you have enough flow of new blood coming in. And it's our responsibility, I think, not only as hunters and conservationists, but it's our responsibility to find our replacements too. We're always working towards that end.
Yeah, the one thing I think that probably would resonate anywhere, whether it's Virginia, Arkansas, South Carolina, you name it, you pick the state in the union, is the one item within our mission statement, and as better than anyone, it's built on really 3 pillars. Certainly, it's obvious the conservation of mule deer, but when you talk about the furthering the sport of hunting and the heritage associated with that, you guys have, as a chapter, the Blue Ridge chapter has contributed monies in your area to the Isaac Walton League, and that is an effort that is certainly furthering the sport of hunting for the next generation. But I think that the hunting heritage as hunters and gatherers and the important culture that we have as hunters, you're furthering that, and that is across the board something that anybody can gravitate and affix themselves with, knowing it takes every bit of effort that we can give it, because we are a minority in the bigger picture. And the more we can do to further that, the better off we are as just human beings. There are a lot of character building things that come from being able to be an ethical hunter that, in my mind, it goes across many lines of who we are as people, as Americans, as citizens, and I think it's all positive.
Yeah, it's a privilege to fall into that category as an outdoorsman, as a hunter, as a conservationist. And there's many battles to be fought on all of those fronts. And it's going to take everybody's best effort to make sure that we preserve this great heritage we have. And we can never let up. We can't expect that somebody else is going to do it for us. I think we all need to roll up our sleeves and be part of that effort.
Yeah, where did the hunting heritage impact and the tradition and the way of life for you as a hunter? Where did that begin, Dave?
Oh my gosh, there were no others in my family other than maybe my grandfather. He homesteaded out in the state of Montana many years ago. And although he was the one that taught me how to shoot, BB gun first, 22 second, and his hunting back then was for subsistence. It was to supply food for the family. And my dad didn't hunt. Started with my grandfather, and I'm proud to be able to carry that on a little bit and have his 22s. Yeah, it's very meaningful to me.
Yeah, now that you have grandchildren of your own, 2 boys, nonetheless, although still years away from being able to take to the field with you. I'm sure you've already given plenty of thought in anticipation of when that day can come where you can be hunting in the field with your own grandchildren.
Yeah, that started very early for my oldest grandson. He was gifted with a BB gun Red Ryder at the ripe old age of about 5 months, and we're now starting to shoot that BB gun again. There's no time to waste.
No time to waste. Now, Dave, again, I appreciate all the efforts you've put forth in establishing and leading the Blue Ridge chapter in Virginia for the Muley Fanatic furthering of its mission. But again, I am extremely grateful and just really humbled by the fact to see this project, this wildlife crossing project south of Kimmer, to come to fruition, to be able to become shovel ready here within the next couple of years, to know that initial seed that was planted to start establishing funds for that it came from your efforts in the chapter of the Blue Ridge chapter. That's something I'll never forget, and I'm proud to be associated with it. So thank you for that.
Oh, we're delighted to be there with it. And it wasn't just us, Josh. There's many, as you mentioned earlier, there's many other private individuals and organizations and chapters that have all given to this. And so it's just remarkable, again, that this project has moved at this speed. And it's just proud to be part in any small way we can in helping out here.
Yeah, wrong or indifferent. I'm sure principally there are folks, myself included, that have a serious pause with the amount of money that the federal government has the ability to print while still facing this enormous national debt that we have. But if they're going to print money and it's going to go to a state, having it come to a state like Wyoming for a project like this, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, no, it's happened and it's been approved. And I just can't even imagine the long-term benefit of this going forward for mule deer and antelope and other critters using that corridor. And it's something we'll look back on in old age and say, man.
Yeah, and motorist safety. It's enormous.
Collisions, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Dave, I appreciate you taking some time and carving this opportunity out for us to visit about this. Again, congratulations. Please share that with all of the members and the attendees of your efforts back in Virginia, how grateful everyone in Wyoming is for their efforts and seeing this huge, enormous win be announced earlier in the week. And you and your family tell Sharon hello and have a Merry Christmas. And I look forward to coming to your event April 13th, 2024, the 5th annual Blue Ridge chapter event.
Yep. Well,
5
Josh,
years. Isn't that amazing how fast time is flying?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. My it's not getting any browner. It's going the other way. Yeah. But no, thanks for all you do as well. Thanks for your strong leadership and the foundation. We're just proud to be part of it.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that. Wild Things and Wild Places, Dave Kavanah, the chapter chair and founder of the Blue Ridge chapter in Winchester, Virginia. I've been to that event a couple of times. I plan on being there in 2024. If you live anywhere in the Virginia area. And again, as Dave mentioned, they have guests that come from Maine all the way down to North Carolina. I would highly encourage you to track that chapter's efforts on the website, muleyfanatic.org. You can buy tickets, reach out to Dave directly. He's a guy that would be more than happy to visit with you. If you're interested in starting a chapter back east and be the second Eastern-based chapter for the Muley Fanatic Foundation, before you call us, call Dave and really get the inside scoop from him. He'll tell you to you straight what it entails and what pieces of advice he could give you to have some success out of the gate. But I would suggest the first thing you do is attend Dave's event and see that it is a well-oiled machine. He and his team do a great job in just putting forth a very good product for folks to want to support and then continue to want to support, which is truly a testimony to Dave. Wild Things and Wild Places, new episode every Tuesday.
Gathered around the campfire's flickering glow, stories ignited, bridging hearts and minds as the world outside faded and connection reigned supreme. Welcome to Campfire Chats.
The sound of a crackling fire. Welcome to Campfire Chat. Joining me today, talking about hunting. That's all we're talking about today is hunting. We might get a little fishing in on this one. Nick Walrath, of course, you heard on the Wild Things and Wild Places episode. He works for Trout Unlimited, but he is a hunter at heart. Wyoming native, grew up hunting. Welcome, Nick.
Yeah. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Here you are, just like that.
Yeah.
You were a hunter.
Yeah. So I grew up in Goshen County, so Torrington, and I lived, breathed duck and goose hunting. That's what I wanted to do every weekend.
That was your thing. That was
my
jam.
thing. Yep. And during hunting season, that's what I did. And waking up at whatever to set out decoys all morning before the sun gets up and try to shoot a goose. But
and good eating?
Yeah. After you figure it out, they can be very poor.
Right.
As most people has
I was
probably
going
heard.
to say most.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you figure it out, don't overcook it. Yeah. It can be great.
Now,
You really
what
can.
about jerky?
Jerky's great.
Yeah.
Goose jerky. Yeah. Awesome.
Really good, huh?
Really good.
So you transitioned from a bird guy to a big game guy?
I did. And that was my wife's fault.
Really?
Yeah.
So got late in the game?
Late in the game. So I think Hillary and I were actually talking before I was going to come on here. I was asking her, I was like, when was that? So,
Because you had big game in Goshen County.
oh yeah, we did.
Yeah,
But there's just too many birds flying around. Hillary and I got married and her family.
She from Goshen County?
No, she's from Idaho.
Okay.
She grew up in Idaho, was born in Colorado, but her mom worked for the Forest Service, and she grew up in a rural Forest Service outpost in the middle of the wilderness in Idaho. Talking about hunting stories.
I need to have Hillary. Is what you're telling me.
Her and her family always get around and start talking about hunting stories, and I always, my stories are not as epic as their stories, but I appreciate you having me on. But
now that I know I'm dealing with the B team,
yeah,
of the Walrath home.
It really is. But anyways, so her family, her mom and dad, they go elk and deer hunting every single year, usually kill stuff. And
I can see you and your future father-in-law having the conversation about it. So you hunt? Mm-hmm. I do. Mm-hmm. What do you hunt? Birds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was one of the first years we were married, and Hillary's like, we got to go up to elk camp. They live in Sheridan now.
Okay.
And so I applied for an Area 38 tag. I drew a bull tag. It was like, it's still to this day the only bull tag I've ever drawn. It was a 38 tag. And so we were all excited.
How many years ago was this?
So I think it was in 2000. It was in 2011 or 2012.
This is right after you guys got married. Okay.
Yeah, it was right. It was either the first year we got, or yeah. Anyway, it was right in there.
Did you have the right rifle?
I borrowed one
borrowed
from Alan, Hillary's dad. He has enough. He has a lot of rifles. I wouldn't say enough.
But you probably didn't have a centerfire rifle.
I did not. No,
Yeah.
I had a 22.
Yeah. Okay.
And a bunch of shotguns.
Yeah.
So I'm a hand-me-down type rifle. It was a nice Ruger rifle. And so we go out, and it was like the first day, opening day, we go out and we find elk, which was cool. I didn't say, I was the only one that drew a bull tag in that area. At that time, there was one area within 38 that if you had a type 1, you're the only people that could hunt that little area. So we went there, and then everybody else in the elk camp was hunting everywhere else. So Hillary and I went there, and yeah, it was awesome. The elk were bugling and stuff. And I was like, well, this isn't that hard. I don't know what everybody was talking about.
That's the beauty of drawing a tag like
Yeah,
that.
it is. So anyways, but you'll soon find out it wasn't really that easy.
Yeah.
We get there, we find these elk, they're bugling still, and it's the 1st of October, rifle opening up there, and they're bugling and everything. We're like, oh man. Anyways, it didn't work out. That night we never got to them.
Couldn't close the gap.
It didn't work. So we go back the next day, and this time Alan comes with us, so Hillary's dad. And
Now you got an expert.
yeah, now we got the A team, like you were saying. And so we go in, there's set up, we hear them milling up, and there's a bull bugling, and it's coming towards us. And he's like cow calling. And so we're just sitting there, and this calf steps out in the clearing. In my head, there's the biggest bull on the forest just down just out of sight.
You can only hear him.
I can hear,
but you
can't see him. And to this day, I don't know if it was a calf or a cow, but Alan was like, shoot it. Because he doesn't,
Yeah.
if you get the opportunity to kill him.
Yeah. There it is.
There it is. Do it.
It's clear.
It's your
It's
first elk.
broadside.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I think we should wait. He's like, I'd kill it.
That's what he said.
Yeah. And anyways, I didn't. I passed.
You're like, no.
And I like, I want to shoot it. Yeah.
I want a big bull.
Yeah, let's try to do this bull thing. So then that went away, that opportunity. They went somewhere else, and then we circled back around throughout the day, and then now it's getting afternoon time. We come up on them. We can see them in the timber milling around, and this is the day late, not the next day, but the afternoon went by, and this is like almost evening time.
Right.
And we're like working our way back to the car. And now we're like, oh man. So here it is. This is it. There's a huge bull right in the forest. And Alan at the end, he was like, that's probably like 200-yard shot. And bird hunter my whole life. So what I did was I pull up like I'm shooting a pheasant, and I just take 2 seconds and I just shoot. And it went through an aspen tree about 8 inches in diameter. And then all the herd ran away. Mm-hmm. And then so Alan asked, he's like,
Where were you aiming?
yeah. And I knew where I was aiming at, where you're supposed to aim. We had that talk. We talked about all that stuff. And only I was under the impression that these things were leaving. And he's like, no, I think they would have stood there for a half an hour if we would have just been quiet here. There's a learning experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, that elk.
So you didn't fill the tag then?
I did not. No. And then the whole rest of the week, nothing ever. No other
opportunity.
No other opportunities.
Back to that calf. I'd take that shot.
Yeah. So I should have listened to him. Yeah. The bull I did shoot at was very large. He was big. It was a big bull. It was a 6x6, I think. But anyways.
But it was still a great experience, right?
It was cool. It was just cool being out in the woods. That was the first time really elk hunting, crawling through the woods. Hillary was yelling at me because I was walking too loudly. I didn't know that really was a thing. But now I do. Yeah, stealth. Yeah, creeping through the woods and stuff. Yeah, walking too fast.
You drew a good deer tag a few years ago, didn't you?
No, never drew a deer tag.
No?
But
you harvested a good deer.
I did. Yeah.
But it wasn't in a limited – it was in a general area.
It was a general area. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was actually 131, so it was the big desert area.
Yeah.
That's as close as I'll go.
There you go. Yeah. And you've learned that, obviously.
Yeah.
Don't divulge too much.
Yeah,
but that was a great deer. I remember the deer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was back when you guys were next door to the TU office. Yeah, that was a really fun hunt. That was
that your first big game harvest then?
That was my first deer.
Okay.
So that was in 2016, I think.
Yep.
I remember because that deer had so much fat, and it was obviously getting ready for something.
Yeah.
And it was.
A bad winter.
A bad winter, yeah. And that's why I'll remember that. But I'd killed cow elk before that.
Okay, so that was your first.
That was my first antlered anything. But that deer, I had him and his buddies. He had 2 other buddies that I found the year before, and I didn't harvest any deer the year before. And you guys are familiar with that area. It's only like a 5-day, 6-day season.
Very limited. Not a lot of deer in that area.
Yeah, there isn't. I don't disagree with it at all. But so I found that deer and its buddies the year before, and hunted him, saw his buddies that were nice deer too, and never could seal the deal. And so that season went away like it does quickly.
Right.
And then opener that next year, he messed up and
And you were the
capitalized.
benefactor.
We capitalized. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. We were late. My buddy and I, we got out of town late and later than we would have liked. And some people had pushed that deer towards where we parked. And so we walked, I don't know, 3/4 of a mile, half mile or so. And it was just crossing in the open. If we would have got there any earlier, we would have missed it.
You'd have missed it.
If we would have got there any later, we would have not seen it. Yeah. And he was going in a very weird spot where we'd never seen him go before.
Yeah, he'd been bumped, huh?
Yeah. So he bumped, went to a spot where and then he laid down beneath a little hill where we could get up around on him.
Ah.
But if it just works, stuff like that works out, right?
Timing was perfect.
Yeah, timing was perfect.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that was a really cool. That was a really cool experience because that deer, I've been watching him for so long.
Not that it means more, but when you have that type of history with a critter like that,
Yeah,
it certainly adds to the buy-in of not only the chase and the pursuit, but also the taking.
Oh yeah, a lot of respect for that guy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Said respect. That's it. Reverence.
Yeah. And I don't know whatever happened to the other two deer. We went after them the next year and stuff like that. My buddy, we saw a glimpse of them the following year, but I don't know whatever happened to them. But but that was cool.
Yeah. So kind of new to the big game hunting.
Yeah.
When you get married, Hillary brings you into the fold.
Yep.
You certainly have caught on to the bug.
Oh yeah.
And now it's a way of life for you. How important is the game meat? Is that a staple to your diet, or is it just if we get it?
No, it's actually a little bit of a point this year because neither of us have harvested an elk or a deer. Yeah, it is a big deal.
Is it
for us? Yeah, and especially for the kids and everything. They really are. My oldest daughter, her favorite meal is heart.
Really?
Yeah, is elk or deer, antelope heart. That's her favorite meal.
Yeah. What's your favorite, Nick? What's your favorite meal?
I like a backstrap steak in the iron skillet.
Medium rare.
Yeah, you can't really beat that there. Yeah.
Deer, pronghorn, elk. Does it matter to you, or you like all three?
We've harvested. But I'd say we because Hillary and I were a team when we're out hunting. But she's harvested a couple of antelope, and that was by far the best, I thought.
Yeah, I'm a huge pronghorn fan.
Yeah, antelope steak is, man, I don't know if it gets much better. Don't get me wrong, I love elk and deer and everything else, but man, a pronghorn steak is pretty darn good.
I'd put pronghorn, then elk, and if I had to eat a mule deer, I would.
I'll tell you what,
whitetail deer, though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, I've had opportunity to go up to Sheridan and chase a few whitetails. I've been lucky enough to harvest a few of those. Those are pretty good.
So you got a hunting goal or a dream hunt?
Oh man, that's a good question. I guess you ask everybody that, don't you? Now that I look
to.
back,
Only because vicariously, I want to hear about when you do bring it to happen. That you get to tell me about it.
Yeah, that's a great.
I just love talking hunting.
I've always wanted to go bighorn sheep or something like that, hunting like that really epic mountain stuff.
Yeah, steep country.
But I got into the game so late that I don't even apply for those tags. But I will say that just working out at Little Mountain,
right,
hunting that country would be really cool.
Deer
or
elk.
Yeah. And
gosh, even pronghorn.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. That 59 antelope tag is
that's great. And
just that country, right?
A close to home hunt. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
And then
you should be able to make that happen.
I think so.
Yeah. Just keep trying, right?
Yeah. That's all I got to do.
Hey, and on the sheep tag or mountain goat, or where you're like, I'm too late in the game. Don't forget about the random.
I know there's a few people keep.
I mean, 25% is pretty good odds, right?
Yeah.
It may be
You're
poor odds
right
to begin with, but 25% is.
Yeah. So one of the other factors in that whole thing is, so 3 years ago I got a bird dog. So I've fulfilled one of those life goals that I had growing up in bird country in Torrington, and finally got a bird dog. That's taking a lot of time.
Yeah.
In the fall and right this time of year.
Are you getting some practice in?
Oh yeah.
Lots of it?
Lots of it. Yep. Bird dogs getting to run around all over the place.
Very nice.
Yeah. And I actually was going back and forth on if we should tell that story or not. But
Yeah, let's hear it.
Just growing up a bird hunter, that's one thing I always wanted was just a good bird dog that we could.
What kind of bird dog did you get?
I have a small Munsterlander, which is like a long-haired German short-hair pointer.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a German bird dog that she's a versatile hunting dog, so can do water retrieves and duck hunting, and then she points game. And one thing that they use these types of dogs for in Europe is big game tracking. So in Europe, in some places, you have to have access to a big game tracking dog if you go big game hunting. So so if you wound an animal, you can use a dog to track it.
Recover it.
Yeah, a recovery game dog. She's a very strong tracker and has a lot of food prey drive, which is difficult in the house sometimes, but yeah, outside of the house, it's very fun.
Yeah.
So we've got to travel all over the place. We went to, if you work for Trout Unlimited for 10 years, you get a 3-month sabbatical. And I just got back. I just restarted my job here in November.
Hold on. Let me see if I get this right. I want to make sure I wasn't confused.
Yeah, maybe Muley Fanatic should do that.
You work for Trout Unlimited for 10 years.
Yep.
And they give you
a paid 3-month
sabbatical.
Yep.
Which means you get to do whatever you want for 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the bonus for hitting the decade?
Yep. So Hillary,
do you get to pick the time of year?
Anytime. Yeah. You got to go through all that paperwork.
So you could say, I'm going to be gone August, September, October.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of gig is this?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
Extremely.
And Hillary.
Oh, it's amazing.
Hillary.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. Hillary's been working for TU for 10 years. We overlapped about a month and a half.
Wow.
For a sabbatical. I was talking about bird dogs.
I don't know anybody else who has that.
We got to go bird hunting a lot this year. And that light really clicked with her as far as the teamwork bird hunting stuff. So it's really fun right now.
That's awesome.
To get her out and
boy, you got me fixated on that. I just can't imagine if you had 3 months off, what it's like, the hole that you're in when you come back.
Yeah, let's see. I can't remember
because the to-do list doesn't stop.
I was going to take a picture, so I didn't though. I think I had around 2,000 emails.
Oh, you totally unplugged. You're just like, nope.
I actually, at the very start of my sabbatical, we went to Sweden to visit some family. And in the airport during my sabbatical, I answered an email from my colleagues, and he said, "Turn it off now." He's like, "I didn't know you're on sabbatical. Erase that from your phone, your email app." So I did.
That's incredible. I didn't even know something like that existed.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's a really cool perk.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. I could see why a lot of people don't do it though.
Oh yeah. I'm a re-entry zone.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Good for you, man. Good for you. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for Hillary. I'm happy for TU doing something like that. That's got to be more than a perk. I can imagine when you've got 8 years invested with the company, you're like, I'm not giving up now.
Yeah, exactly. And then after you take it, you have to sign a agreement that you're gonna stay on for another year.
Oh, okay.
Which that's not that big a deal. I love what I do.
You're there 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey man, great to chat with you about hunting. I know that we're all over the place talking about different types of hunting, but to me that's the whole point of this, to celebrate a heritage of hunting and the importance of that. I applaud you and Hillary for instilling this as a value with your family and your 2 young children that you're raising, and your cool bird dog. What's a bird dog's name? You never disclosed.
Yeah, Pika. Yeah,
Pika, like the little chipmunk looking thing. Yeah,
in the hike.
The berry eater in the rocks.
Yeah. Yep,
that's a cool name.
Yeah,
Pika.
For sure. Yeah, Hillary found that one or decided that one. That was a good one.
Nice,
for sure.
Nick Walrath talking hunting. Yeah, part of Campfire Chat, sub show to Wild Things and Wild Places. Nick, thanks, man. Happy trails.
Hey, thank you.
And that wraps up another episode of Wild Things and Wild Places. But remember, the journey doesn't end here. Make sure you never miss out by subscribing, Whether you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, streaming us on our website, or following us on social media, subscribing is the best way to stay connected. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for more wild episodes.
Everybody knows I'm a Muley Fanatic.